this brings up an important point, that there are two Dantes here, right? There's the Dante who's actually making the trip, the pilgrimage to the divine vision, the beatific vision. And there's the Dante who's the poet, who's telling us about everything that's going on here. He's, when he gets down to line 8 and 9, he says, "But to set forth the good I found," so he's telling us he was on that journey and he found this, "I will recount the other things I saw." And he's talking about himself as a poet. So this is important to keep in mind as well. And, there are scholars who fight about everything. So some of them actually will fight about whether the Dante who makes the trip is the same Dante. I tend to think that it is, but that's a very good thing. And the way he brings this out is exactly the way you say. He will talk in the present tense often, not always, but usually he'll talk in the present tense when something is happening to him. And a lot of what happens in the Divine Comedy, that's worth saying right here, is dramatic. That it's a matter of encounters with people, strange beasts, mythological figures. It's not just kind of an expository description. Although when we get to Paradise, there's more theology and it's fit into the dramatic encounters. But that's good. Anything else we want to get on the table here? What else actually happens in this brisk 63 lines that Jake was just talking about?
The other thing that struck me was perhaps he's reflecting on his responsibility of finding himself along this dark wood and not knowing how he got there, and even describing that he was asleep, and now he's looking back and say, well, maybe perhaps I wasn't asleep as it unfolds. And that generates fear. That, again, I forget who it was who commented, whether it was Lindsay or Amanda, as a middle-aged person looking back, reflects and says, well, maybe I am responsible for finding myself in this situation, and I want to look at it a little bit more.
Yeah, he says, I was so full of sleep when I'll have to look at the Italian. It says, when I abandoned the true way, la verace via. So, this is a very common experience, of course, as well, and not only in terms of religiosity and spirituality and sin. A lot of times you find yourself in a circumstance and you don't know how in the world you ever got yourself in this circumstance. And it's the older you get, the more I think you kind of realize that. But I want to go back just very concretely. So what else happens? He's lost. He sees the sun on the hillside. He can't go up, and why can't he climb this hillside toward the sun?